Too many DIY workbench plans take 2 months and a table saw to build. This easy DIY workbench and sawhorse is going to take you 1 day, and you can build it using only hand tools. We designed it for use with timber framing in our timber frame classes. It is incredibly sturdy. It is a true workhorse of a workbench. Of course, you're going to start by squaring up any messy ends, and this is the perfect time to practice making your square handsaw cuts. It's pretty easy, and it's easy to get nice square cuts with just a little bit of practice. Begin by laying out your cut. We're going to make lines on all 4 sides. So hold your square against the top face of the timber and strike your line. Then drop the square down to one side, line up the vertices, strike a line, put your square on the other side. Same thing, line it up at the corner, strike a line. Rotate the timber twice, so you're on the bottom now, and then connect those 2 lines. Now you're going to start cutting. This is a Z-saw, Catawba saw, and it is a Japanese style pull saw instead of a push saw. But whether or not you're using a pull saw or a push saw, you're going to start with a few push cuts at the corner opposite you to establish your curve. As you get your cut going, you're going to start dropping the saw towards you, following that line, and then you're dropping the saw down onto your side only to cut down that line. You're keeping your saw in the curve as much as possible, but you are not cutting through both sides of the timber at once. You are letting that saw drop down to form a 45-degree angle. Once you've connected the 2 opposite corners, you're going to remove the saw, rotate the timber twice, and repeat the procedure. Again, establishing your cut with a few push cuts, dropping the saw down, bringing it down towards you to create a second 45-degree cut that will meet with your first cut in the middle and come away clean. So you're looking to create 2 45-degree angle cuts that will meet in the middle, and this will reduce the risk of splintering and breaking, and also when you only cut what you can see, you're a lot more likely to cut a nice square cut. Now it's time to cut the legs. These legs are measured at 30 inches on our sawhorses. That may seem a little bit short, but these are designed for timber framing work. So you're putting large dimensional lumber up on top of there, 6 inches, 8 inches. So by the time you do that, you're not really bending over to use your plane or chisel. So obviously you will need 4 legs. So measure 30 inches, and then you will follow that same procedure to mark the cut and then make the cuts. These do have a compound angle on the legs, and so we are providing a free printable template for you. So check in the description below to get that link. So it's important to note there are 2 different templates. The larger template is for the outside face of the leg, and the smaller template is for the inside face of the leg. So you will use both templates on each leg, tracing them onto opposing faces. After you do that, connect your corners with a square. Making the stop cut for this leg joint is kind of like cutting a shoulder cut for a tenon, except it's at an angle, but same basic principle. And just remember to follow what you can see and only cut the side that you can see. After making all 4 stop cuts, you're going to waste away the material with a chisel, and you have to pay careful attention to your grain direction because you always need to be chiseling downhill instead of uphill, or else you risk getting a lot of tear out, and it can really be helpful in this situation to turn the timber on its side. Of course, there's also going to be lots of paring with the chisel. Again, pay careful attention to the grain direction. It can be a little bit funky here on this compound joint, and as you get close to the line, make sure not to chisel over the edge because that can lead to tear out. You also need to cut your sawhorse top, and we used sawmill 4x10, so it is an actual 4x10 inches, and cut that at 4 feet. We've had questions about using the same hand sawing method on lumber that isn't square, and the answer is yes, that is exactly what you do. So you're going to use your square to lay out lines on all 4 sides, and then follow those lines around, making 2 cuts that meet in the middle at a 45. After cutting your bench top, mark which side is up. So you're just going to look at the rings and place the outer surface of the tree up. This is going to be your most durable surface. So take your tabletop on the long bottom end and mark 1 inch end on each of those 4 sides. And this is where you'll be lining up the outside bottom edge of the joint on each of the legs. Nailing the leg in place while holding the leg to the bench is a little awkward, so get those nails going with the leg just on whatever work surface you're using. We used 3-inch nails. You could go longer, but remember as the diameter of the nail gets bigger, you are at a greater risk for splitting the wood. Folks have asked about using timber locks, and you absolutely could use timber locks here if you wanted to, but we feel that it's an unnecessary expense and that we could save that money to use on hand planes and chisels instead. So we used 3 nails on each leg. After you have those started, you're going to hold the leg in place, lining up that outside bottom corner with the mark you made and sending those nails home. After you have all 4 legs in place, you're almost finished, but they do need a brace to help keep the legs from splaying out. We just used some scrap pieces that were left over from cutting some tenons and scarf joints, but it's roughly 10 inches and we used about a 6-inch board. This piece will nail to the legs directly underneath the tabletop, and here we just used 2 nails per side. After attaching the legs, we flipped the workbench over and planed the top so that it was nice and smooth. And that's it! Your easy DIY workbench is now ready to use. We did install a few upgrades, like drilling a couple holes to keep a pencil in, and attaching a plane holder to keep a hand plane nice and handy. If you want to see these workbenches in person, come to one of our timber framing intensives. We have 3-day timber framing classes where we teach you the essentials of mortise and tenon joinery and also a scarf joint using both hand tools and power tools. And it doesn't matter if you've never even used a saw before in your life. One of our most fantastic students was a grandma who had never even used a tool before, so if she can do it, you can too.